So what is your, in an, again, uncertain, high velocity, volatile market, what's your favorite metaphor of a team? What's the most useful metaphor for managers to have?
Yeah, I think it's basketball team. And why it's basketball is, I mean, it's obvious, it's fast moving, it's fluid, and if you're good, you score. But it's also more subtle than that. I mean, first of all, it's the size of a basketball team. A basketball team is five people on the court, maybe another 5 on the bench. Relatively small team. It's not a team of 12 or 15. It's somewhere between, and I think if you look at the management teams, the best teams are somewhere between 4 and 7 or 8 people. So relatively small. The other thing about a basketball team is the best ones are clearly highly differentiated. So it isn't that everybody is a great basketball player. Different people are good at different things. So you have a tall center who may be good at blocking shots and playing around the rim. You have point guards who are kind of managing the play. You've got shooting guards who are taking 3-pointers. You've got small forwards, power forwards. So you've got people who are not the same, they're differentiated. So that's the second key, size, the differentiation. And a third key, I think, of top teams is around the variation in experience. Because great basketball teams and great sports teams in general are about having some really seasoned veterans who know how the game's played with some young, athletic, no holds barred kind of young guys. And it's that combination that we've seen, for example, if I look in Silicon Valley, what we've seen is the top teams, and I think Google's a great example of that, of an Eric Schmidt, if you will, bringing supervision to the kindergarten with Sergey and Larry providing that youth. So it's the combination of mixed experiences, people who are really good at what they do, and a team that's not too big, I think is really, to me, the optimal team.
So you've talked a bit about the composition of the team and what makes for a good team in these environments. There's another issue around the process of how they interact. And one of the big challenges that managers face is uncertain market. We need different points of view. We need to argue about those points of view.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, we have to play nicely together. So how can teams manage that balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's really a big challenge. What I've seen in working with a lot of Silicon Valley teams is that the best, and actually teams around the world, not just Silicon Valley, but around the world, the best teams can make a decision fast, they can have it high conflict, and they can walk out of the room and be ready to execute and still like each other. And one of the tricks is conflict and still getting along. The way you do that is, there are a couple of, I think, really key tricks. One of them is to really recognize that you want to make the conflict about the issue, not the person. And you do that in a couple of ways. One of the ways is actually to stay grounded in data. So the degree to which you're debating a marketing program or a new country entry strategy is try and stay grounded in, so what do our customer surveys say, where's the product selling in a region, what are our manufacturing costs, but the degree to which you can keep it grounded in real-time data. So you really got a dashboard of data so that everybody's talking from the same set of facts. Then you may have difference of opinion about those facts, but at least you've got the facts that you can agree on, and now you're talking about something that's really worth debating. The other trick, and I think this is actually works extraordinarily well, is to try and develop multiple alternatives. If you're just sitting there with one alternative, and let's say it's my alternative, and you're disagreeing, and it becomes my alternative, and starts to becoming, as we disagree about alternative, it starts to be about me, and about you or perhaps not liking me. And that's really, we don't want to go there. So the key is to come up with 2, 3, 4. 2 is actually not even enough. 3, 4 alternatives, even if we don't believe in them, because that lets us debate. There might be an aspect of, let's say, alternative 3 that you like that I can also go with, and so on. So it depersonalizes the conflict, and it creates a bigger range of options. So multiple alternatives is absolutely key to depersonalize it and to get creative in the decision making. Another, I think this probably sounds kind of goofy, but it's true, to get teams to really work well, is humor. And actually having good food. Humor, fun, jokes, good food, because it puts people in a good mood. And there's great psychological research on that when people are in a good mood, they hear each other better and they feel more cooperative. So a real simple thing that actually works.
The catering theory of effective teams.
Catering, that's right. I worked with one team where they all went on a weight loss program together, and they had a good time with that. So having a good time is part of getting people to feel cooperative, not competitive. Another key one is to have a way to cut the conflict off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have this idea called consensus with qualification. And the idea here is we all talk and we all give our point of view on hopefully multiple alternatives. But at some point there's a way to decide. Maybe it's voting, I'll typically not. Maybe it's the key leader, the general manager, the CEO making the call. Sometimes it's the functional or other kind of executive who is most involved with the decision or is going to have to implement it, makes the call. But you have some way to cut off the debate. And why that works, so go for consensus. If you can't get it, there's a way to make the call. Why that works is what most people want, is they want to be heard. But they're also big boys and big girls, and they know that not every decision is going their way. And so if they're heard, they're happy, and if some of the time they're the one who makes the call, that's usually enough for people. So that's another way to have conflict and still get along.
And just tying this back to the earlier discussion about simple rules.
Okay.
What are do you see teams kind of cultivating simple rules for how they're going to qualify their consensus? I mean, is this a way to kind of crack that nut?
I think that is. I think that becomes a heuristic that people are using we always decide by, I was working with a couple of business units in a large corporation, large telco, and they started to realize, well, what we're going to do, we're going to break that tie when we can't decide by functional area. There's a business unit teams with functional areas. So if it's mostly a marketing problem, we'll all talk about it, but the marketing guy chooses. Or if it's an engineering problem, the engineering person chooses. So they do develop a heuristic. Occasionally it's a voting heuristic as well. But yeah, that's one of the simple rules around decision making. Other thing I've actually seen people come up with this when they really understand this idea of multiple alternatives. They will have a rule around let's get at least 3 alternatives on the table. Or they may have a timing rule around, we can talk about we can talk about an issue for 3 meetings and then we make a call at the 3rd meeting.